Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. Happy Tuesday. My name is Angela. I'm with She Rises Studios, and today I am here to celebrate the release of a new book by Patricia and Charlene. And I have both the authors here with me today. And this wonderful book is all about financial literacy, but it's done in a way that kids can understand it. So I will let Patricia tell you a little bit about the name of the book.
Hello, everybody. The book is called The Money Adventures of Grandma Dear and Her Granddears. Book 1 is Penny Learns About Pennies. And that's the first book in what will be at least a 3 and maybe 4 book series.
Amazing. I think that the title is amazing, and I love that you guys are focusing on financial literacy in such a easy to comprehend way. So before we dive into about the book, I mean, I do have to ask, how did you two ladies come together to write books? Like, how did you meet?
Charlene?
Well, that's an interesting question. We both have actually been involved in the realm of wealth literacy for quite some time. Patricia can tell you she's an expert in the area. As for me, and I'll let her tell you about herself. As for me, my background is not in financial literacy; it's in public health. But what I found very early in my career, more than 35 years, was that there's a real link between one's health and one's wealth and one's health. And a lot of the times that link is intricately related to your financial health. All right. So I look at health from a holistic perspective, and financial health is really one of the bigger aspects that impact everything. There's not a day that goes by that someone tells me that there's something that they cannot do because their financial health is poor. So we work together in doing wealth literacy around the country, but certainly in the whole Washington, D.C. area. And Patricia and I have trained with the same training place for doing wealth literacy workshops. And we ended up doing numerous ones for youth. Patricia, you want to tell a little bit about how?
Well, as Charlene said, we met being involved in the same training programs that somebody else was putting on. And then somehow we just became kind of enamored, that's a crazy word, with each other and what each brought to the table. And I did primarily adult financial literacy, but we got involved with younger girls, Charlene, 8th through 12th grade, would you say?
Sometimes even younger, which was important to us, but 8 to 12 is a good starting place.
But we realized that many of the adults didn't know financial literacy because they hadn't been trained as younger people. So as we started working with younger people, we realized we really needed to go back even further than 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, as young as we possibly could, to have people understand what this thing called money is. Young people have no way of knowing it, especially if the parents don't know it and they don't teach it in school. Mm-hmm. And what statistics tell us is that up to now, we're about at 22 states that require financial education as a graduation from high school requirement. That's too few. If the parents don't know it, and the children aren't learning it at school, how do they learn it? So we started talking about it one day, and we said, you know what? We need to go all the way back to 3 and 4-year-olds and have them start understanding this thing called money. Charlie?
One of the things I think Patricia will remember well is that almost after every workshop, we would be approached by parents. And certainly after the kids had gone home overnight and came back, the parents would meet us at the door. And inevitably, they would have the same question: what have you been teaching my kids? And it wasn't that they were alarmed, but it was very clear to us that we were almost speaking to them in a foreign language. And the kids would go home and start saying things about, balancing things, or just using financial terms, very basic financial terms. And the parents were a little concerned that they did not understand what their children were saying. that was important to us. It was a real learning lesson for us. And Patricia's right. It made us say, let's start from the very beginning here. And here's the thing. Because we are writing a read to me book, which means that a lot of times the parents are reading to their 3 and 4 year olds, they're learning the lessons subliminally and learning them all over again without us having to preach it to them. And that's the best way to go, that they're learning right along with their kids. And many times they start implementing some of our lessons as a family unit, which is another key and core component of what we do. We believe strongly that it's one thing for us to teach your kids all day long, but if you don't have the knowledge as a parent, you're not going to be able to incorporate it. And more importantly, if you don't do things together as a family, it's not going to be a sustainable practice. And that's most important to us.
There's nobody to reinforce their learning if the children know it and the parents don't. So we try to reach out to parents as well and have them understand exactly what their children are learning. Now, the first book, I must say, most of the parents know how to count pennies. Yeah. But that's not the issue. The issue is we're reminding you of how to count these pennies and move forward with us in through all of the volumes. All of us have been in stores today where there have been people at the cash register who couldn't count. If they didn't have the cash register that told them the amount of the change to give, they would not be able to do it. So while this is a book aimed at children, some of the parents are going to learn what this is all about also.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love that you've taken this idea of financial literacy and you've put it into a story, but into a fun story too, right? You've chosen, like, how did you choose the animals to go with animals as your characters and play on that way?
Charlene, why don't you take that one?
Sure. We actually did our research on this because working with children, we wanted to make sure we had an animal that was relatable and fun. And believe me, Grandma Deer is about as relatable as you can get. Most people have had an older person, whether they call it their grandmother or, auntie, somebody in their life who has known a little bit more than they knew and been willing and also welcome the opportunity to share their knowledge. That's Grandma Deer. She's cute, she's sassy, she's savvy. And that's what we wanted in a relatable grandma figure. Likewise, all of the younger animals that you'll meet along the way, which in this case is Penny, but in our very next book, you'll meet Buck, and then you'll meet Doe and some other people that we're not going to quite tell, other animals and people that we're not going to tell you about right now. But along the way, you meet these very relatable characters. And Penny is the quintessential preschool 5-year-old who has gone to school and she's curious about everything. And you can just imagine any child of that age walking alongside of their grandparents and seeing a penny and it's like, what is that? Because they're full of questions, aren't they? They ask you every single thing. Well, what's this? What's that? What's the sky? What's the, why is the sky blue? So that kind of relatability was really important to us, that every kid who's reading our book can kind of see themselves or even see their younger siblings in the book. So Grandma Deer is relatable, and what you'll find is as we go throughout, Buck, I often told Patricia, Buck was initially easy to think about because my nephew, when he was 9 years old, was exactly the same kind of curious guy who was really into, whatever he was into. He was into ice cream. He was into animals. He would bring dead things and try to just shock me with the shock effect of it. So, and any other person who might be a bit squeamish, they're at that age where they love a good joke, and he'd crack up laughing before the joke was out. So that's exactly what we wanted in Buck, to be that kind of a guy that every 9, 10, 11-year-old can relate to.
Well, they have to wait for Buck. But I remember, you were relating a story. I remember once my sister came to visit us. We were living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we took her and her little girl, who was about 4 years old, down to Fisherman's Wharf, and there was a fountain with pennies in it. And she headed for the fountain. She wanted to dive into the fountain and get these pennies. And her mother said, no. But she loved pennies. She didn't know what she'd do with them, but she just liked pennies. So the idea of the first character being named Penny, because that's the basis for the counting, was just something that we didn't even have to debate.
That's great. So now, did you run into any challenges trying to take sort of complex financial concepts and breaking them down into a language and a way that young readers can understand?
I don't think so, Charlene. I don't remember that we had any challenges at all with that. We knew we had to start back at the beginning because that's where kids are. They come into this world with a clean slate. And in Penny Learns About Pennies, she's walking through the park and spots something on the ground and says, "Grandma dear, what is that?" She says, "It's a penny." She says, "Like my name?" And she says, "No, it's a coin." So that's how we get into what is this thing called a penny used for.
That's right. We had to constantly challenge one another to go back even further. When we can't start talking about a penny unless the first thing Penny is going to ask us, like Patricia just said, is that my name? But more importantly, what do I do with this? What is this penny all about? So beginning just to understand the concepts of how you can accumulate, we're talking about a penny now, but you can imagine later on how you accumulate money, how you accumulate quarters, and how quarters eventually make dollars, which vernacular in the book you'll see we talk about that dollar makes a buck. So, which is an intro into the next book. But the idea being, what is breaking this down to its most essential components? Why am I holding this coin, and what can this coin do for me?
And Grandma dear tries to explain to her what you can do with a coin and how these pennies add up into other denominations of coins. And again, that's important to us, for children to know that 5 pennies make a nickel and 10 pennies make a dime, since people don't talk about pennies anymore. And also today, so many people think that's such a basic amount. I don't even bend over for a penny or keep the change. It's just a penny. And I said to one of my nephews when he said something about it's just don't ever say that about money. It's not just anything, just $100, just $50. If you have an apartment and you're just $100 short on your rent, guess what happens?
You're not paying rent.
That's what's going to happen. After a while, the landlord is going to say, "You got to go." So we want people to understand the value of money.
Yes.
And also the responsibility you have when you have money, because there are a lot of people who don't have it. So you recognize that that's a responsibility and carefully manage that money.
Oh, I love that. I think that's absolutely amazing. And so what do you hope readers in the audience take away from your first book, Penny Learns About Pennies, but also the series in general? What is the most important message that is being communicated?
Well, I'll start. First off, this month is very significant for people who are in the realm of financial literacy. The month of April, which is the month we chose to release the book, is actually Financial Literacy Awareness Month. So right off the bat, we want to reignite that memory in parents who buy this book and adults in the life of children who buy this book, that this month is dedicated to learning more about financial literacy. I think the other thing we want families to learn right from off the bat is that this is a family initiative. And we mentioned it earlier, but really is important to us that you read the books together, you talk about Penny, you see yourself in each of those characters, and that you use this opportunity to be able to have essential conversations about money, not just in April, in every month. So that when you're sitting down at the dinner table, perhaps you turn off the TV, perhaps you put away the cell phones, perhaps you put away, the laptops, whatever the distraction is, and you start having a conversation. For many, they've just had spring break, but summer looms right around the corner. So talking about the monetary aspects of summer, right? The financial implications, what it is that you want to do, and maybe even beginning to have those conversations about what that costs. So this is that kind of opportunity. It spurs you. It's like spring is the beginning of something new. This is the beginning of something new in terms of talking about money and maybe even some personal family things. Because when we found, and research bears this out, that when the family talks about money and when you have honest conversations about things like this is not something we can do right now, but we save up to do it. Everybody gets involved in the aspect, especially if it's something that they want. So saving up for a vacation, saving up to go and see grandma, those kinds of things become a family effort. And once it's a family effort, not only is everybody involved and engaged in it, you appreciate it a little bit more.
You also appreciate the sacrifices that you have to make it happen. Mom, can we go to Disney World? Well, wait a minute, we're saving up for a house. Remember, we're saving for a car. Remember, and get the kids involved in helping this process. Make it a game for everybody. So I agree with Charlene 100%. It's a family affair, but it also, as I said earlier, is a responsibility and a privilege, because there are a lot of people who don't have any money at all. So whatever you have, use it carefully. It really doesn't grow on trees. That's something I heard my mother say a million times when I was growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. So you learn, you have to work for it. And that's one of the things we will eventually talk about in later volumes, how you get money. It just doesn't come from grandma. You don't find it on the ground. Not much of it do you find on the ground, but you have to work for it. And okay, what are you going to do to get it? What kinds of things are you good at? How do you make money? How do you save? Which is a word that so many people don't even think about. They just do. And with all the credit cards out in the world, there's no reason to delay gratification. You just get that little card, and now you just tap it. You don't even have to stick it in a slot. And before you know it, you've got people who've got debts all over the place, and they wonder, how did this happen? Well, you made it happen. That's how it happened, because you weren't careful in your thinking about money.
So a long-term goal of our book really is this education component, where there's probably not a day that goes by when people ask me about the book that I don't ask them a question as well. And often I'll ask questions like, what are the major ways in which people make money in the United States? And inevitably, they may say, well, I go to work every day. But when we talk about making significant sums of money, they rarely have an idea of the three major sources of making money in the United States. Actually, not just the United States, worldwide. Sometimes they'll be able to say, because it's very popular right now, they'll know about the stock market and invest. Very often they don't know about entrepreneurialism at all. And real estate, not even thought about. So really being a business owner, we don't think about things like that. So it is an opportunity to really learn, and that's what we want to be able to do with these books at the most elementary level.
I love that. I love that. So, I mean, ladies, this is absolutely amazing. I'm just thinking of all these far-reaching implications a book like this will have. One memory for me when I was younger and working in Staples, Business Depot, like a retail store. I'm in Canada. We don't have pennies anymore. And I remember someone coming out to buy something, and I told her how much it was, and she held her hand out like this with money in it. Again, because she couldn't count the money. Whether it was she was unfamiliar with the currency or not financially literate, whatever it was. And I was like counting it out loud, putting it together. And it struck me, I was like, I'm happy to do this, and I'm honest, and I'm not going to take your money. But what a risk to not be able to, to need to trust at that level to pay for something. And just thinking, if with a book like this and this book series, like that can help adults who are new to the American currency. It can help adults who maybe didn't get financial education when they were younger, and then kids as well. Like I love just how powerful this can be.
Angela, my mother lived across the street from a young girl who had a baby when she was 15 years old. Her father was not around. Her parents adopted her, but then the mother moved out. But the young girl never got any kind of education. And when we would go to see my mother, the young girl was always sitting on the porch, it seemed, and she would always ask us for money. And my mother, into her 20s and 30s, she was still asking us for money. And my mother went to her one day and said, do not ask any of my visitors again for money. Get yourself a job and make your own money. And she said, I can't get a job. And my mother said, why not? She said, because I can't count. And she was in her 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother said, if you can't count, people can cheat you.
Mm-hmm.
Said, if you were my child, you would have learned how to count if you had to sit on the floor and count beans.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no way you can make it in this world without being able to count. Like you said, you were honest when the lady held out her hand.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, back in the day before computers and cell phones with calculators on them, people had to know how to count.
Mm-hmm.
My husband worked in the Safeway when he was in college, and he talks about having to know the prices of items and how to divide. If something was $3, $4 and a person came up with one, you had to know that one item was 34 cents. There was no calculator to take the dollar and divide it by 3 and add 1 because they only wanted 1. And he said he had to know the prices of items. There was no code on the items to tell you through a cash register how much this bag of sugar costs. They had to know all of that. So in order to work in Safeway, which you don't think of as a high-powered job,
Right.
he had to know how to count. People gave him change, and he had to take that $20 bill and count out $1.17 or whatever it was. So you got to know nickels, dimes, quarters. I just recently came across a gold dollar. Do you remember several years ago they made a $1 coin? Do you remember that? It was a gold. Well, you're not U.S. based, but it was a
no,
gold.
but we have the $1 coins. Our dollars are coins.
It was bigger than a quarter, but not as big as a 50-cent piece. And people got so confused with that coin. It just didn't stay popular because it didn't look quite like a quarter, didn't look like a 50-cent piece. People didn't know what to do with it. And I came across a couple on my shelf the other day and thought I may as well just take these to the bank and turn them in because I can't use them in a transaction because people don't know what to do with it.
Amazing. Well, I mean, ladies, I think that this is just going to help so many people. And I love that you've done this. And I'm so excited. So I know this is a series. You're saying, you know, a 3, potentially 4 book series. Do you know when the next one, like when are you aiming to have the next one out?
Well, we're hoping for fall, consistent with school beginning. And if we're very lucky, we also hope to have the 3rd in the series for Christmas. So the
I mean, that would definitely be a set every parent would want to give to their kids, I'm sure.
And people who don't have children, you have friends who have children, neighbors who have children, there's schools in your area. Buy one and put it in the school library. I mean, we're always selling, but this is something we seriously believe in it. We're not doing this to make money. We're doing this because I call myself a zealot. Because I am very, very serious about everybody learning about this topic. I grew up in a household that didn't have a lot of money. And my father died when I was young. But my mother said, there are 5 children. She says, we're going to be all right, but you're going to do money my way. And she made us learn the rules of the money game. And we thought she was mean and stingy.
Yeah.
She was teaching us something. We got allowances. We didn't know the term budget. But the rule was you got your allowance every other Monday. You can do whatever you want with it, whether it was a dime, a quarter, $1, or $2. You got to do whatever you wanted to do with it. But if you ran out of money, too bad. You got no more money, which today is the budget concept.
Yeah.
You cannot spend money that you don't have. Charlene, you were going to say something.
Well, no, I was just going to share that even the terminology that we use makes a big difference. So Patricia knows that I rarely say the word budget, and I use the word savings and spending plan because I want people to know it's both things. You should have a plan for savings, but there is real value in understanding how you're going to, that some of this money is going to be used to spend. And so plan for spending it as well. So savings and spending plan as opposed to budget. A lot of people, the moment I say budget, they get tense and a little, a little anxious about it, right? It sounds like it's going to be money and math and addition and subtraction. And all I'm saying is, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to spend the money that you have.
What I hear more often than not is, I can't do a budget. It's too restrictive. And we try to put that to rest when we're working with older people, not a 2 or 3-year-old, but we have people understand that it isn't restrictive. It's just that you are limited in what you can spend. You're limited by what you have to spend. So that's all we want to know is how you want to allocate your money. And you get to decide. If you want to live in a 2-bedroom high-rise apartment in downtown Washington, D.C., that's a very different cost than living in a studio in North Carolina. It's where you live and, more importantly, how you live. If you want a Mercedes, that is going to cost you more than a Ford Corolla. No, I don't know who makes Corollas, but it's not.
I think you might be right. I think it's Ford. Is it Ford? Oh, sorry. Toyota. It's a Toyota Corolla.
Okay, Toyota Corolla. Mercedes is going to cost you more than the Toyota. And I'm not trying to be snotty about it. I'm just saying that's the reality. If you don't care about cars, don't buy a car. But don't buy it because your neighbor has it or somebody on Facebook has it or anything like that. Do with your money what you want to do with it, what you want it to do for you. That's the important thing. What do you want it to do?
Parameters. Stay within your budget. Stay within the money that you have. And that's probably the one of the biggest lessons we are trying to preach is that you don't have to go outside of those parameters.
Love it. Amazing. So The Money Adventures of Grandma Deer and Her Granddeers, book number 1, out in paperback, available on Amazon. I'm so excited for you ladies. I love what you put together. I love the concept. I love what it's teaching. I mean, I just think this is something that will benefit so many people. So congratulations and thank you.
We also have it out in ebook form for those who don't want to have something in their hands. And we're working hard to get it in a hardback as well.
Amazing.
We'll have different forms depending upon what people choose to buy. Charlene.
So in parting, I just want to let you know that Grandma Deer has a lot of little sayings, and one of hers is read up. You just might learn something.
That's I love it. I, for one, will be picking this up for my kids. I have 8-year-old twins. I love the idea. I think they will really benefit from it. So, and thank you, everyone. Be sure to pick up your copy of The Money Adventures of Grandma Deer for anyone in your life that you think could benefit from these lessons. And that is really everyone in your life. And let Charlene and Patricia know your thoughts. They'd love to hear your feedback. Leave a review. You can leave reviews on Amazon. You can leave them on the She Rises Studios Facebook page. Let them know because they are here to help you. And they would love to hear from you what your favorite parts were, what made the most sense. What was that aha moment?
Angela, we are SavvySistersTeach.com, and we encourage them to let us know as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you, ladies, and thank you for taking time to share all of this with us today. Truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to hear about the money adventures of Grandma Deer and her granddeers. Enjoy your day.